Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force, you are about to embark upon the Great Crusade.
In June 1944, the Western Allies were finally prepared to deliver their greatest blow of the war, the long-delayed cross-channel invasion of northern France, codenamed Overlord. General Dwight Eisenhower was supreme commander of the operation that ultimately involved the coordination efforts of 12 nations. After much deliberation, it was decided that the landing would take place on the long, sloping beaches of Normandy. There, the Allies would have the element of surprise. The German High Command expected the attack to come in the Pas-de-Calais region, north of the River Seine, where the English Channel is narrowest. It was there that Adolf Hitler had put the bulk of his panzer divisions after being tipped off by Allied undercover agents posing as German sympathisers that the invasion would take place in Calais. Surprise was an essential element of the Allied invasion plan. If the Germans had known where and when the Allies were coming, they would have hurled them back into the sea. With the 55 divisions they had in France, the Allies would have been outnumbered 10 to 1. The challenges of mounting a successful landing were daunting. The English Channel was notorious for its rough seas and its unpredictable weather, and the enemy had spent months constructing the Atlantic Wall, a 2,400-mile line of obstacles. This defensive wall comprised of 6.5 million mines, thousands of concrete bunkers and pillboxes containing heavy and fast-firing artillery, tens of thousands, tank ditches, and other formidable beach obstacles. And the German army would be dug in on the cliffs, overlooking the beaches. The General Dwight Eisenhower was appointed supreme commander. He and General Sir Bernard Montgomery modified the plans, expanding the size of the beachhead and the number of divisions in the initial assault. This led the Allied leaders to set June the 5th, 1944 as the invasion's D-Day. On the morning of June the 4th, meteorologists predicted foul weather over the English Channel on the 5th, leading Eisenhower to postpone the attack for 24 hours. The delay was unnerving for soldiers, sailors and airmen, but the meteorologists forecast a brief window of clear weather over the Channel on June the 6th. Eisenhower made the decision to go. It was one of the gutsiest decisions of the war. Just after midnight on June the 6th, Allied airborne troops began dropping behind enemy lines. Their job was to blow up bridges, sabotage railroads, and take other measures to prevent the enemy from rushing reinforcements to the invasion beaches. Hours later, the largest amphibious landing force ever assembled began moving through the storm-tossed waters towards the beaches. Most of the Americans were packed into flat-bottomed Higgin boats launched from troop transports 10 miles from the French coastline. Though it was cold, the men were sweating. Planners had divided the landing zones into 5 separate beaches. The Americans landed at Utah and Omaha, and the British Canadians landed at Gold, Juno and Sword. Fiercest fighting was on Omaha Beach, where the enemy was positioned on steep cliffs that commanded the long, flat shoreline. Troops leapt from their landing boats and were pinned down for hours by murderous machine gun fire that turned the beach into a vast killing field. If you stayed there, you were going to die, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Friedman said. We just had to try and get to the bottom of the cliffs, on which the Germans had mounted their defences. By midday, the Americans had surmounted the cliffs and taken Omaha Beach at a heavy cost. Over 2,400 killed, wounded or missing, out of a total of approximately 34,000 who came ashore that day, a loss rate of more than 7%. By nightfall, around 160,000 Allied troops were ashore, with nearly 1 million more men on the way that summer. The Normandy invasion was one of the great turning points of the 20th century history. An immense army was placed in Nazi-occupied Germany, never to be dislodged. Germany was threatened the same month by a tremendous Soviet invasion on the east that would reach the gates of Berlin by the following April. The way to appreciate D-Day's importance is to contemplate what would have happened if it had failed. Another landing would not have been possible for at least another year. This would have given Hitler time to strengthen the Atlantic Wall, harass England with the newly developed V-1 flying bombs and V-2 rockets, continue to develop jet aircraft and other so-called miracle weapons, and finish off his final solution.